Welcome to Get Healthy, Sexy, and Happy. Today's topic is serious and affects many women, and that's thyroid dysfunction. Thankfully, Dr. Stephanie Daniel from intuitivewomenswellness.com is here to break up some of the myths and maybe help us treat it in a way that's different from current Western medicine's practice.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Dr. Steph.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So, first of all, where is my thyroid located and what does it do?
Okay, so the thyroid's a little butterfly-shaped gland that sits right kind of at the base of our neck,
Okay.
right in front of your windpipe. And it's responsible for producing a hormone that is used by every single cell in our body. You can liken the hormone, which we call thyroid hormone, to basically like gasoline to our cells. It's what gives us kind of the fuel to go for everything to function. So we think about it in terms of metabolism, and oftentimes the word metabolism is associated with calories in, energy out, but on a more biological level, it's actually referring to cellular metabolism, or every cell's expenditure of energy and intake of fuel and expenditure of energy. So that's what thyroid hormone does.
And when does thyroid normally have dysfunction? When does it shut down?
So some of you probably know a little bit about thyroid, low thyroid symptoms. One of the most common ones is fatigue, just being really tired all the time.
So lethargic.
And we also associate it with things like hair loss, constipation, feeling cold. And the reason for that... Weight gain or inability to lose weight. And the reason for that is because if you think about the thyroid's job is to keep things moving. When it starts to function less optimally, things start to slow down. Your whole body tries to conserve, and it tries to conserve by conserving energy and energy output.
And that's because it environmentally picks up on something.
Yeah, so one of the theories is that because thyroid, actually the actual hormone uses iodine. So one of the ways that the thyroid regulates metabolism is by sensing environmental resource abundance or scarcity. Iodine is one of the parts of the thyroid hormone that make up thyroid hormone, and back in kind of Pleistocene era or prehistoric times,
a long time ago,
one of the ways that we sensed environmental abundance versus scarcity was through kelp forests, because we were originally came out from water in evolutionary terms. We weren't always human. And kelp forests are, or sea vegetables in general, concentrate iodine in large amounts. So one of the theories is that when the kelp forests were abundant, there was lots of iodine around, and we could make lots of thyroid hormone. And when the kelp forests were scarce, that was a proxy for resource scarcity, and we would have less ability to make thyroid hormone, which would make our thyroid underactive, and therefore we would conserve. Because we would want to conserve in times of scarcity, and we would want to function normally or kind of rev things up in times of abundance.
So what environmental factors today, or chemicals or toxins, are giving the thyroid the wrong signal?
So nowadays, we're no longer using kelp forests and iodine as a proxy for resource abundance. We're being exposed to a lot of environmental toxins, for example. We're also being exposed to a lot of food components that create immune responses. One of the most common ones is gluten. So we eat things that have gluten in them, like wheat, barley, rye, your pastas, your breads, and our immune system recognizes it as kind of a foreign invader and kicks up the immune response. When it kicks up the immune response to the gluten component of wheat, it also attacks the thyroid, and that's because thyroid hormone protein looks exactly the same kind of chemically structurally to the wheat protein that a lot of us are sensitive to.
Really?
Yeah, really. So it's a way for our bodies to say, okay, something's not going right in the environment. We need to conserve. There's danger. Let's not do too much so that we can kind of survive. Yeah, exactly.
So what should a woman who has thyroid dysfunction, how should she change her lifestyle or her eating habits?
Yeah.
What are the typical Western medicines that get prescribed, and what would you suggest? Or how does your clinic go about it?
The first thing to do is to recognize that you may have some low thyroid symptoms so that you can go get tested. One of pretty much the only way that most Western doctors test for it is through a test called TSH. That's thyroid stimulating hormone. It's a hormone that is produced by the pituitary, which is a chemical signal to the thyroid to make thyroid hormone, which we call T4.
Okay.
It's also called levothyroxine, but T4. Unfortunately, most doctors don't check T4 levels. They just look at TSH. And if the TSH is out of normal range, then they say, okay, well, there might be some hypothyroid here. And out of normal means too high. Because the harder the pituitary has to work to tell the thyroid to make hormone, the less thyroid hormone is being produced. So we're looking at high TSH as being a signal for low thyroid function. However, the pituitary marker isn't always as sensitive to the decline or the decrease in circulating hormone. And so you actually need to look and see, well, how much thyroid hormone is actually being produced. TSH might not be that off yet because the pituitary is still compensating, but your thyroid's really sluggish and not producing the hormone that you need to feel good.
Okay.
So I always advise my patients, and I do with my own patients, to check a variety of things, not just a TSH, but circulating hormones. That includes T4, which is what the thyroid produces, and free T3, which is what T4 converts into in order to become active. T4 itself is not active at all. We don't use it. We actually have to convert it once it gets to the cell. And then the other three components that are really important to do are two thyroid antibodies, which would signify an immune reaction or autoimmune reaction.
Okay.
One's called thyroperoxidase antibody, and one's called thyroglobulin antibody.
Okay.
And that is a form of low thyroid function called Hashimoto's. So we look
where
at
it's
those.
attacking itself.
Right. And you can actually have high elevated antibodies and a totally normal TSH and be completely symptomatic because your immune system's attacking thyroid function.
THS is not a TSH.
Not a good gauge. It's a good screening if it's off, but if it's not off, does not mean that there's not something going on.
And that's the Western medicine standard, doesn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of hypothyroidism goes undiagnosed or underdiagnosed. And then the last component of that thyroid panel that we look at is something called reverse T3. So whereas the inactive T4, which is the thyroid hormone that our thyroid produces, converts to T3 and becomes active, it can also convert to reverse T3. And reverse T3 doesn't work, and it actually blocks the receptor site that T3 uses to function.
Oh, no.
So you can have really high levels of reverse T3
blocking the keyholes.
Blocking the keyholes. So that's another component to look at. And one of the things that causes high reverse T3 is stress, chronic stress.
None of us have that. That's fine. We're in the clear.
Yeah. So those are the important parts to get measured, and then what to do about it. Like certainly diet and lifestyle changes are critical to having sustainable restoration of thyroid function. So definitely cutting out the gluten in your diet is one of the key culprits. Sometimes other food sensitivities can do that. Making sure you have really good adequate amounts of protein and the typical
eat
greens, omega-3s, which are your fishy fatty acids, like reduce inflammation. Okay. And then there are about 4-5 key micronutrients that are really important to thyroid function.
Micronutrients are vitamins, right?
Yeah, vitamins or minerals. So copper, zinc, selenium, iodine, and vitamin D. And I'd say out of all those, vitamin D is the most crucial.
We love our vitamin D.
We do. So vitamin D is part of the receptor site that the T4 binds to become that active T3. And if you're vitamin D deficient, that receptor site can't work very well.
It's the latter. You got to grab onto something.
Totally. So you're looking for vitamin D levels to not just be in normal, which is somewhere between 30 and 100, and not just be maybe 40 or 50, but you actually want to get them up closer to that upper range of normal, 75 to 90, to get adequate thyroid hormone function. That's the most critical. The other micronutrients I tend to try to encourage my patients to get from food sources. And then iodine itself, a lot of people are like, I should take an iodine supplement. But that's only really advised if you're sure you don't have the autoimmune version, because excess iodine, because your immune system's attacking the thyroid, could increase that immune response, because then there's more iodine around and you're making more thyroid hormone.
Bigger bat signal.
Totally. So
wow. This problem is rampant and it's increasing in our culture and others, but so many women in my life struggle with this and have this going on. You can find Dr. Steph and her less than Western techniques in making sure the whole panel is tested for on intuitivewomenswellness.com. You can come see her personally in Berkeley and San Francisco. And I mean, thank you. I had no idea. Reverse T3, we hate you. Hashimoto, the MS version of thyroid. So thank you so much. Diet, lifestyle, lowering stress.
Yeah.
And then what does the Western version of, what do they put women on?
Yeah, so it's sometimes women will need thyroid hormone replacement in order to get better. Oftentimes the diet lifestyle changes will do quite a bit, and some people will never need to do any thyroid hormone replacement, but if you do, most Western doctors will put somebody on the T4 equivalent, which goes by the brand name Synthroid, it's the generic name levothyroxine, and that's fine if you're converting. But there's a lot of factors to being able to convert versus not convert to that active T3. Right. So oftentimes women will get some incremental benefit and still feel terrible. One of the things that women most respond to is actually a combination T4 and T3. You can get that in a variety of ways. All thyroid hormone on the market is bioidentical. Some of it, though, is synthetically made in the lab, and some of it is animal-derived or naturally derived, but also made in the lab. So those are called Armour Thyroid or Nature-Throid. Most of my patients are on Nature-Throid, which is a combination of T4 and T3 in one tablet. Or you can do T4 and T3 separately. The T3 synthetic version is called Cytomel or liothyronine, and those all tend to work much better for people than T4 alone.
Sorry to interrupt.
It's okay.
I have a personal question. If I'm experiencing fatigue from thyroid, is it better for me to get my butt to the gym and work out harder, or is it better for me to rest?
Well, really depends. One of the reasons why working out really hard when your thyroid's functioning not so well is because your adrenal glands will try to pick up the slack. And the adrenals will produce cortisol, it'll produce epinephrine and norepinephrine, we call it like adrenaline. And when you're pumping that out, going to the gym, when your thyroid's really sluggish, you'll just burn out even further. So you really need to make sure you're supporting your thyroid and your adrenals before you think that you just need to go to the gym to be well.
Perk it up.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for our adrenal video. That's the one that I need badly. So see you soon. Get healthy, sexy, happy. Hopefully this thyroid video helped. Pass it on to your friends, your mothers. A lot of us are dealing with this. And we will see you really soon.
Okay.
Thanks, Dr. Steph, again.